Hey, so this is one of our videos, our furniture flipping course videos that I've posted right here on YouTube free. Now, if you want to see our whole entire course, you can go check it out at paintlifesupply.com. The whole course includes over 40 videos. It starts from how to market yourself to flip furniture to actually how to repaint furniture, how to prime it, how to sand it, how to flip it, basically, and make money doing so. Hopefully you enjoyed this free video from our furniture flipping course, and go check out the whole thing at Paint Life Supply. So today I'm going to be talking about HVLP spraying and setting up an HVLP gun to do furniture flipping. I've got an Apollo 7700 atomizer gun right here. So I'm going to be going over a few of the features on it and showing you how I set this thing up. The unit I'm using an Apollo Precision 6 HVLP sprayer right there, and it has a digital readout. That's where you actually set the pressure when it comes to spraying. On a lot of HVLP guns and setups, you would be adjusting the airflow right here. But one of the nice things is about the Apollo, I'm just gonna back this thing all the way out. I'm gonna have full airflow coming to it. I'm gonna make my micro adjustments, over there at the turbine. I have figured out spraying furniture, cabinets, everything I spray using 2K polys, I sprayed at 7.5 PSI, so I never have to make an adjustment there. I never have to make an adjustment on the gun right here. Right here, this is my material flow. This is what's gonna send more or less product out of the cup right there. So I'm going to, typically I start off, I'm gonna turn this all the way in to the minus right there, so there's no material, and I'll start backing it out to get more material, and I'll make those adjustments as I'm getting this thing set up. I do have a dial right here, this dial right here. This thing is gonna turn it from a circular pattern. If I open it wide open, it'll turn it to a wide spray pattern, and I can dial it in anywhere in between. So it's gonna go from circular and begin starting to get wider and wider as I turn it. So if I turn it counterclockwise, it's gonna be a small circular pattern, and the circular pattern will get smaller and smaller with less material. So if I want that circular pattern to get bigger and bigger, I'll take and start sending out more material. I got my cap right here. The cap will rotate where I can take my pattern, spray it vertical or spray it horizontal just by simply turning the cap. Right here, I've got a little feature right here. This is going to be the pressure relief valve right here. So when I'm done spraying, there's pressure in here, 7.5 PSI pressure. I don't want to just release this and let the pressure come out through there. I'm going to turn this little valve. It's going to release the pressure out through the valve, and then I can open up the gun right there. Now there are multiple options you can use. This is what we call a siphon feed cup right here. This is what I predominantly use, or you can use a gravity feed cup right here. Gravity meaning gravity is what's taking the product and sending it to your gun with pressure coming up through the top of the gun. Siphon, it's siphoning it up from the bottom, from pressure being put into the gun coming to your tip. It's really personal preference. With the gravity feed cup up top right here, you can have really tiny amounts of material that to spray with it. So if you got something you're spraying really, really small and you don't need a lot of material, one of the advantages is you don't need a lot of material to get this thing spraying, just tiny bits. If you're spraying inside of cabinets and stuff, it gives you a smaller profile to be able to spray inside of like the cabinets or inside of drawers, etc. This is a larger profile right there, but this with the gravity feed, it kind of blocks my line of sight, and when I'm spraying and stuff, and it's kind of one of the disadvantages that I don't like. I predominantly use a siphon fed cup. This is my setup right here that I use right here. It does have, if you're curious what this thing is, so this is the air comes in. This is sending air down through this one-way valve into my cup. That's actually what's pressurizing the cup and sending material up through the intake tube of the gun itself. If you begin to spray and start to tilt this thing way sideways where the paint could actually go up inside this thing and the valve's not working correctly, you can end up sucking paint up in there. It's happened to me multiple times. You could pull this off, clean it out. The paint, if it dries in there, that you'll mess up that one-way valve. I always have extras of these in case paint gets up inside there. I just switch it out really quick. So there's some of the features about the gun. Now when it comes to the needle, nozzle, and cap, the needle, when you're pulling the trigger, there's a needle that's sliding back and forth. The nozzle, right here, I'll pull off. Here's your nozzle right here on the end, and then this is your cap. So when it comes to furniture refinishing, I'm using 2K polys. There's a lot of them out there, polyurethanes. 1K meaning you're not adding anything to it, you're using it right out of the can. 2K means you're catalyzing it to increase the durability, hardness, scratchability, a lot of other things, water resistance. So 1 and 2K polys. All of them that I use the same needle, nozzle, and cap. So it really simplifies it. You don't have to actually switch this out ever. And I've come down to using the 1.3 needle and nozzle setup. So they go together, the 1.3 needle and nozzle. And then I use the BHS cap, the gold cap. So the BHS cap is a high solids cap. So high solids product. So that's a combination. Now you can use larger needles and nozzles if the products are thicker, or smaller needles and nozzles if the products are thinner. Like lacquers and stuff, thicker. If you're using over-the-counter products like Emerald Urethane or Benjamin Moore Advanced, if you get stuff that's really thick, you would have to start to thin out your product, possibly, if you're using a 1.3 needle and nozzle set. But for the products I use, been using this same needle and nozzle set for years and never had to actually, use anything different right there. So that's a little bit about needles and nozzles. So when it comes to setting up your gun too, so I'll just give you a little handy little tip right here. So I'm going to release my gun. You can see my intake tube with the screen on it. It's facing forward, so it's coming down and facing forward. You can have it facing in a lot of different directions and actually adjust that. You would loosen this up right here, and then you would turn this top right here. So I'm spraying, when I'm spraying down, as you start to tilt it down, the product, you would actually start, if you were really low on product, you would start to have air right here. It's facing towards the back. You could end up sucking air and no product would come out. So you'd want it to be facing forward as you're spraying downward. So a lot of it is just downward. You're spraying the top of a piece of furniture, the top of the table. So more common to have it facing, downward. If you're spraying upside down, so if you're starting to turn it upside down like this, as you move it, you're going to have air right there, and you would possibly want it to be facing the opposite direction. You'd want it to face up. So you can see if it's facing forward, that gives me the advantage spraying downward. If I'm spraying upside down, it's facing upward, and if I'm low on product, it can end up sucking there. But it's pretty rare that I'm spraying upside down. It's most of the time it's downward, so I want it set up. So it's a simple little tip when it comes to setting up the spray gun properly and having it feeding the direction you want it to feed. So now in order to switch this, all I gotta do, I'm just gonna loosen up this right here. This is going to release. I can take the cap right here, switch the cap to the bottom, and the cap off the bottom. Screw my gravity feed onto the top. Hook up my air valve. Now I just went from siphon feed to a gravity feed cup, just like that. Opposite, just unhook your valve, take off your cup. I'm going to switch the cap. Screw on my siphon feed cup. Want to make sure direction I'm pointing. So I want it pointing forward. So forward is right there. I'm going to tighten that up. Attach my cup. Reattach my valve. Ready to go. From gravity feed to siphon fed. When it comes to HVLP spraying, there's good sprayers, there's bad sprayers. There's sprayers that are going to give you a decent finish. There's sprayers that are going to give you an amazing, finish. I've used multiple guns, multiple sprayers, over the years, Graco, Titan, Apollo, I've used in others, and those are some of the major ones I use now. This is an Apollo 7700 atomizer gun. This is the gun I use. Absolutely love this gun. It's the best gun I've used so far. And if you've never used an HVLP gun before, it's a little different than an airless sprayer. Airless sprayer is, just the gun itself. The only thing is you can change tips. We have some tips here. You throw on a different tip and you can adjust the pressure, at the sprayer, and that's just about it. An HVLP gun typically has an air valve and typically has a fluid valve. So you're going to control air by one, fluid by another. Now, when it comes to, cabinet refinishing and furniture flipping and refinishing on the atomizer gun, I back this, the air all the way out. So it's going to be full air coming through this gun. So it's backed all the way out. This is a pretty, critical tip right here to understand that if you're using an Apollo, I use a Precision 6, that it actually has a pressure control knob at the sprayer, so you control how much PSI is coming to your gun by that knob, and it has a digital readout. It tells you exactly what you're running. So that's where you actually control your airflow, not right here. You want this wide open. I typically have my airflow set for the products I'm using. It's 7.5 PSI. It's the same every time. So you're eliminating having to mess around with adjustments. I know the products I use, 7.5, this is all the way backed out. The only thing I'm doing is I'm messing around with how much of my coating is actually coming out. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn it, there's a minus, I'm going to twist it, turn all the way in, and I'm going to begin setting, how much product is coming out. And I make this adjustment every single time I begin spraying. So I'm going to, get the thing running. I'm going to be in my booth. You can just spray it up against some cardboard or something, and I'll start to back this out and begin spraying till I have, just the right amount of paint, the right amount of atomization, that I want. I'm going to be backing this out and adding more and more product. The more product that comes out, the faster you can move. And I want to move pretty quick when I'm spraying with my HVLP sprayer. So that's some of the things with the guns. I know it's, some people, if you've never used an HVLP, this thing can look pretty intimidating, but it really is simple. All you're doing is just adjusting this. This is what adjusts how much material is coming out, just like switching tips on an airless sprayer. The other thing is needles, caps, and nozzles, and that can get a little overwhelming. You get on our website or get on Apollo's website and you see all these different caps and you're like, oh my gosh, what cap? There's some recommendations and stuff, but what needle, what cap do I use? When it comes to furniture and cabinet refinishing, it's very simple. I use only one cap. I only use one needle and nozzle combination. I use a BHS cap, this gold cap, and this is really designed for spraying high solid materials, latex paints, and polyurethanes. The needle and nozzle, there's a bunch of different sizes, just like there is a bunch of different sizes in airless sprayers, but I only use one needle size. I use a 1.3 needle and nozzle set with a BHS cap. It's very simple. That's all I ever use for doing furniture refinishing and painting. The thing you do, you have the ability to turn your fan width vertically or horizontally, kind of like airless spraying. You can just turn your gun to make your fan a pattern vertical or horizontal. Here you just do it by turning your cap right there, and that's going to help you save product in overspray. You do have this dial right here. This is going to adjust, give you the ability to adjust your fan width. So I can go like from a wide fan width, I can turn it all the way down to just like basically drawing with it just by turning this little dial right here. So you have, multiple things, which is really beneficial when it comes to, painting furniture. Furniture has all kinds of different sizes, widths and stuff. The coatings are really expensive. So, you don't want to have a lot of product waste a lot of times. So if you're just doing something really small, you can dial this thing down into just a little small fan pattern and spray with it. So it's not, as overwhelming or as intimidating as it looks and sounds, but just getting it really dialed in, so you're saving product, because the product, the products that we use, once they're catalyzed, are about $120 a gallon. You're using maybe just a little bit, a half a quart on a piece of furniture to a quart. So it's not like ridiculously expensive, but it can be, expensive, and you don't want to have a lot of overspray and waste. You have to have kind of like a plan of attack, when you're spraying this piece of furniture. It's, what should you spray? Top, bottom, sides. We'll just say, for instance, a coffee table. I'm going to be doing the legs first. If there's anything like underneath, I'm going to be have it tilted up, do any spraying underneath. Then I'm going to hit all four legs. I'm going to hit the sides of it, and then I'm going to come and do the top of it. And when I do the top, I don't like the legs and stuff. I don't cross hatch anything. I'm going to spray it, vertically up and down on the leg. It's like what we say, going with the grain. The grain is vertical, so I'm going to spray it, up and down vertically. The side way on the coffee table, it's going with the grain that way. I'm going to spray it, horizontally. When it comes to the tabletop, I want this thing to be absolutely glassy smooth. I don't have to worry about runs at all, so I'm just going to load it on. I'm going to spray it, one direction, and I'm going to come back and spray it the opposite direction, and we call that cross-hatching it. And that's going to give you the ultimate glassy finish on that thing. And once again, I'm going to work quickly so that, any overspray coming down, hitting the sides of my legs, is not going to, cause it to get rough from overspray, because the legs are already starting to dry. Something that will help you if you're spraying, with an airless sprayer or HVLP sprayer, if the temperature is really high, or there's like a lack of humidity, then it's going to dry like really quick, especially if you're not putting enough on. You really want to like load your product on, say a leg, and overlap 50%, get it on there so you're not skim coating it or fog coating it. Like if you're just fog coating it, getting a light coat on, it's going to flash dry really quick, and then your legs can get rough. But with 2K polys, one of the great things about them is a lot of them are just one coat and done. So you got your primer coat and your top coat, and you're done. You can reshoot everything, but there's times when, I'll just mask off the top, or one leg was this, I'll just mask off, just do that one leg over. But there's never anything set in stone, whether you're doing the top first or the legs first, etc. You really just gotta look at the whole project as a whole and come up with a plan of attack, before you do spray it. Runs can be an issue with an airless sprayer. With an HVLP sprayer, it's usually just the opposite. You got a higher transfer rate. You're putting out less product, but it's got a better transfer rate. And it's very rare that I get runs with an HVLP sprayer. The biggest thing I'll run into is not enough product coming out, and I have to go too slow. And sometimes a project I'm sitting there spraying it, and it's just taking me too long. I definitely want to make sure that I have my material set where I got enough product coming out, enough product transferring on there, that as I'm spraying and overlapping, it's all gelling together. So if you don't have enough product going on as you're moving and you're overlapping, you can get what we call like these dry edges and dry feathering edges, and you can get some roughness to your coating if you're not putting on enough coating. So it's just kind of like a fine line. You'll eventually dial it into, when you're testing it out, you're seeing the product coming out, you're going to go, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. You start applying it. If you just feel like you're going too slow, open it up, send more material. If you feel like you're just getting too much and you got some runs, just back the material off. And if you're using 2K polys, if you get a run or you get some rough edges, don't ever panic, don't worry, because it dries fast and you can sand it fast. It's one of the benefits to 2K polys is 45 minutes later, you can sand it and reshoot it again.